It's been about a week since Qingyi's full release, which gave me just a little bit of extra time to figure out whether or not this beat 'em up, hot water drinking cop is for you. Qingyi brings some crazy team building potential to the game, and this is with the free-to-play builds in mind. Not only does she have an instant stun combo on almost every enemy in the game, overwhelming combo pressure, and spammable AoE, but she also amplifies every single DPS in the game, bar one. Most of that versatility is locked behind understanding when and how to use her flash connect voltage, but don't worry, I got you covered. It's time to make her scream, so grab the cream. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can maximize everything about Qingyi's full potential without missing a beat. Today, we're talking about everything you need to know for your brand new Qingyi by breaking down 1. The basics of Qingyi's flash connect state, 2. Recognizing the best opportunities to take advantage of her enchanted moonlit blossom combos. Jeez, that's a mouthful. 3. Her super cool universal free-to-play gear loadouts, and 4. The teams she'll have the most fun in. Getting things started, Qingyi's main function revolves around building voltage to get her into the flash connect state. All of Qingyi's electric attacks will generate voltage, maxing out at 100 units. So when the blue bar turns gold, consider yourself an official Sparking Zero user. Now you don't have to fill this bar to the max, and you can actually stop at 75%, which is the minimum to trigger her enhanced basic attack, Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms, which is honestly just a hold attack, so I don't know why they call it enhanced, but if you hear the acronym EMB, I am referring to Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms. It's just, it's a mouthful, guys. Anyway, Qingyi does, however, gain about 15% worth of damage and days during that attack when you are essentially over the 75% threshold. The great thing about Qingyi is that she honestly kind of just doesn't care. Almost 99% of the time, you will benefit more from letting an EMB smash an enemy's face earlier than later. Plus, once you really get into a full Zen-like mode, you're going to quickly notice that most of your time on field is actively stealing opportunities from enemies by death of dodge counter. This playstyle can get a little nuanced in explanation though, and isn't as static as you might think. Similar to another electric unit named Grace, Qingyi's game plan is a lot more reactionary and on the spot compared to a more methodical playstyle like Zhu Yuan's. Thanks to her core passive Eternal Seasons, every hit she lands from the flash connect state will increase the enemy's stun damage multiplier upwards of 80%. And this is before any other additional multipliers get brought into play from external sources like a W engine or even a disk drive. This potentially raises any boss's stun multiplier from 150% to a whopping 230%. For comparison's sake, that's double what Lycon provides on his own at an even faster stun rate. Landing all 6 hits on a single enemy that's moving won't be easy though, and that's where this part comes into play. I'll go more in depth on her unique perfect dodge mechanic in the next section, so keep that third eye open. With Flash Connect out of the way, we can break down the rest of her kit. It's not that they're less important, more so that everything eventually just blends into one as you learn the character. Your main goal is to get in a basic attack 3, this. And how you do that, or what you do from this point, are what makes your Qingyi better or worse than somebody else's. First, I'll note the moves that lead into BA3, those being EX skill, quick assist, and dodge counters, each of these being your main functions into how you get into basic attack 3. Understanding how to get yourself into BA3 quickly and the combo routes you have access to around that are important, because this is the best way to maximize the amount of times you land a finishing strike, which is essential to her core passive and benefits the entire team. Eternal Seasons is so powerful in its own right that knowing when to let one of these rip or hold on to it for the next enemy can make or break some of your speed runs. After giving you the important basic information about Qingyi, it should be easier for me to explain the fluid concept of how to play Qingyi. From what I've gathered so far, most players are only using BA1 or 2 in order to get to BA3, and in fact telling you to skip as many normals as you can in order to get to, you guessed it, BA3. And while that's true on paper, there's a problem with this in game. In the event you don't run her with a 2-piece swing jazz set or a Steam Oven W engine, you won't actually have the energy to consistently use EX skills outside of the game just giving you energy for whatever reason. And honestly, I'm more positive you won't have the energy to do it regardless. You also remove one of the vital moments she has to give you safe pressure. I'm using air quotes here. And those 1 or 2 basic attacks before or after your BA4 will give you just enough energy to scrape out another EX skill. But why am I making that seem so important? What could possibly be a good enough reason to tell you that using her basic attacks matter? And the answer is this. A B&B combo that I've tested against every stationary enemy in the game that leads into a guaranteed stun on every non-boss, gains the same EX bar of meter you just used, and allows you to remain safe against all incoming attacks. And just to retouch on this, because I did mention the safe pressure earlier, as you guys have seen from version 1.1, we've gotten a little bit more of an aggressive style of gameplay. A lot of the enemies in the later half of Qingyi defense and even in Hollow Zero have become a lot more aggressive, just like the populace asked for. With that in mind, we've seen some of these instances happen with Zhu Yuan, where you can do basic 1, maybe basic 2, and then you try and do your dodge attack to get your combo started, but you're hit out of it. Safe pressure, again using air quotes here around the word safe, basically means, or is a term that I like to take from fighting games. I know, right? Fighting games. Being safe or doing something that's safe means that you are like 1-2, 1-2, 1-1. You're like a jab check, if you will. You're pressing buttons that have fast startup frames but low recovery, so you don't have to sit there waiting on the animation to recover as often as you would like or need to. That way you can test what's going to happen, see the enemy's reaction, or in a fighting game's case, your opponent's reaction, and then get whatever it is that you're looking for out of that. The reason I'm using BA1 or BA2 for a lot of the characters, but especially Qingyi, as safe pressure is because a lot of her actions come from dodge counters or being able to maneuver around the enemy and knowing when you can do something and when you can't do something. So to revisit that B&B combo and just to say it out loud for the people that might be listening instead of watching, but I encourage you, look at the screen. BA1, BA2 into EX, but you have to hold it. That gives you BA3. You hold or dash this until you get about 50 stun. You're going to let it go. That's your BA4. You're going to do EMB, which is the Enchanted Moonlit Blossoms, all of them. Or if you need to dodge, let it go so you get the perfect dodge counter. You're going to finish it off with EX, and this is guaranteed to stun any enemy in the game that is not a boss. It's going to build up all the meter that you just used for the EX. That way you get the last EX attack, which is how you're getting 2 EXs in one combo. And yes, you have to use the hold version of EX skill or you will miss out on energy and days needed to finish said combo. As a fair warning, this combo's benefits change slightly depending on whether or not you're using a W engine with an impact main state like her signature, or you're using energy regen like Steam Oven. They're basically the opposite of each other. Ice J Teapot ramps up the impact as you attack, and Steam Oven dumps a buttload of impact into your kit after you consume the energy. So it's kind of perfect that her EX skill is exactly 80 energy, huh? Just a moment ago, I mentioned that B&B in particular was a guaranteed stun combo on any non-boss enemies, which could be seen as a problem by any new player, but I promise you it's not. Qingyi actually doesn't want to instantly stun the big bosses due to the fact she needs to smash them with at least 2 of those enchanted moonlit blossom attacks. This is because normal and elite enemies receive double the stacks, while bosses receive the normal amount of stacks. Each full EMB will give you 10 stacks versus a boss, meaning you would normally need 2 of them in order to reach the full 20 stacks before stun. However, if you trigger perfect dodge in between any of that, it means you only realistically need to hit that once. This is what I was referring to earlier in the video when I spoke about learning when and how to use that Flash Connect state of hers. By focusing on controlling your movement and pairing that with learning the enemy's attack patterns, you can not only guarantee an instant stun on most enemies in the game, but also max subjugation stacks with every finishing strike. The only downside to this is how much field time she actually takes up, but that honestly just led me into my own theory about 2-cell teams being even more of an option now. But that's a whole nother video for a whole different day. Let's talk about Mindscapes. Here we are going to the movie theaters where only whales buy tickets. In all seriousness, if you're new here, I do this section a little differently than others. I will not be going over every single cinema of a character because, I mean, honestly, you just don't need all that. I will, however, tell you the 2 most impactful cinemas in her kit. Cool? Cool. M1 is a huge quality of life change for Qingyi, but I don't know if it's really needed if you're playing the game the normal way. Upon entering combat, Qingyi instantly restores her voltage to a maximum and increases the rate at which she builds it by 30%. Layman's terms, you build a full 75% meter in like 2.5 hits. That's not all though. When using her EMB, the attack will now reduce the enemy's defense by 15%. And her crit rate increases by 20% as long as your voltage was full beforehand. So overall, this is a big change for her own personal damage performance and begins the transformation of building a 2-cell instead of a 3-cell team. M6 is her final mindscape and the next most impactful. M2 and M4 are okay, but not substantial enough to put a lot of focus into. M6, on the other hand, basically makes her EMB a moving brick wall and increases her crit damage by 100%. Not only that, but she also benefits the team by reducing their attribute damage by 20% for 15 seconds. I said that wrong. Attribute damage resistance by 20% for 15 seconds. That's longer than any burst rotation currently in the game, which means the uptime on this is basically permanent. Now, I'm not advocating for anybody to do this, but if you do, let me borrow your account. Up next is her gear, and from what I've learned about supportive characters, these are the easiest kits to build. Ice Jade Teapot is Qingyi's signature weapon, and of course, it's engineered specifically for her. It boasts a strong 18% attack main stat with an interesting terrific effect that builds about 21% combat impact just for bopping enemies with your basic attack. Thankfully, spamming BA3 counts for this, so regardless of the type of player you are, you'll get these stacks. Also, for those that don't know, like myself before I made this video, combat impact is exactly like combat attack, but for, well, impact. It's an extra multiplicative stat placed on top of your current impact in game, or in round, in match. At the point from going from the menu to the game, you know what I mean. On top of all that, she increases the entire squad's damage by 20% for 10 seconds when she holds at least 15 of those stacks. This is easily one of the best W engines, not just for herself, but for her favorite partner, Zhu Yuan, because of the burst DPS window Qingyi will always give her. Her second best numerically is the restraint, due to the raw damage and days percent increase it gives. But honestly, I found myself gaining more benefit from Hellfire gears instead. Koleda's signature W engine is great for all of the stun characters currently in the game, but the key thing to pay attention to is the use an EX special attack requirement here. Similar to the previously mentioned W engines, Hellfire Gears also comes equipped with an 18% standard impact, but now you have a little under a 1% energy regen per second while she's off the field. This works in tandem with you needing to use an EX special attack twice to gain the 20% combat impact stat. That's such a bro, you gotta use it. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's so much, guys. There's so much to say, and the words they just kind of fold in together. You have to use EX special 2 times in order to gain the combat impact stacks that will raise that by 20% so that you can passively gain the energy without needing to be on the field all the time. Couple this with the B&B combo I told you earlier, and this W engine's value in terms of consistency jumps up big time. Lastly, I'll recommend the best free-to-play option, Steam Oven, an amazing A-rank W engine that can easily be S5'd through the weapon shop in game. This engine offers a 50% energy regen and a 25% combat impact that only requires you to use the hold version of her EX skill. Again, using the B&B combo I showed you earlier, this is the easiest condition in the world because it essentially resets itself within the combo to set you up for your DPS's burst window. Personally, if I were free to play, I'd build an S5 Steam Oven and save the rest of my polychrome for Jane. Diving straight into the disc drives, her best set is Shockstar Disco. There's honestly nothing else to recommend here. This is the best option for stun-centric characters because of the 20% increased days on multiple types of attacks and a permanent 6% impact bonus. After that, your 2-piece set is typically going to be whatever you have the best combo for. Personally, I'm the biggest fan of Swing Jazz, just to keep my EX meter up as much as possible. However, Thunder Metal, Puffer Electro, or even Woodpecker work great for a sub DPS style Qingyi. Your desired main stats will be crit rate on the 4th disc, but attack percent can be used for about 6% damage difference, electric damage in the 5th slot, and impact on disc 6. You really don't have another option there. Substats are of course crit values, attack percent, and good bulk, because you will get hit a lot until you learn how to counter enemies. Now, thanks to Qingyi's generous core passive, she can work with almost any standard team comp that includes an attack character. Due to that fact, it's easier for me to show you the team options instead of explaining why they work, because the why is literally her core passive. Her best and obvious team will be Zhu Yuan's burst team. It's exactly the same team I showcased in my Zhu Yuan guide, being Qingyi, Nicole, and Zhu Yuan, in that order specifically. The order being the most important because Nicole has to be in front of Zhu Yuan. Otherwise, the tag into quick assist won't work properly and you'll miss out on free bullets and damage. Qingyi provides an ample amount of opportunities for your other teammates to join the fray. Pop a skill or an assist point, then switch back into Qingyi for a full stun combo. This particular combo is even funnier when you see Nicole use Gravity Orb to hold a group of mobs in place, then Qingyi just slams her bow staff on top of all their heads and gets 3 stuns back to back. After that, I spent a solid day playing with the Electro team to determine whether or not it was worth wasting time on. Anton and Grace are being referred by a lot of players and it works, but I ran into a problem that I didn't believe was personally worth my own time. Anton, Grace, and Qingyi all want a solid amount of field time, with Anton and Qingyi wanting the most of it. Because of that, I thought, why not just change out Anton and make Grace the main DPS? So that's exactly what I did. By swapping out Anton for Rina, the team's rotation became way smoother. Thanks to Grace's dash dancing playstyle, it gave me a lot of breathing room to keep my distance from enemies while still doing damage, and stealing full stun combos on enemies as soon as they get stunned. With Rina, she allowed me to instantly bring the fight to a close by quick assist, and because all 3 units are Electro, everything was always in a shock state. By the end of my testing, this became my second favorite team to play Qingyi on. The last team was a tie between Physical and Burn, 2 comps that I feel need a strong character to drive them into the higher ranked tiers. Physical has Billy and Nekomata, both doing a solid job at DPS. Billy gives you a fork ton of range, which is great for him, but not so great for Qingyi, who wants to constantly be in their face when it matters. Nekomata, on the other hand, wants to be in their face, but also wants someone to help her trigger assaults as much as possible. So the Physical team works, but there are some caveats to it. Burn, on the other hand, only has Soldier 11 to depend on for strong DPS. The pseudo lockdown that Soldier 11 provides with her EX skill is a fantastic way for Qingyi to rack up a group of stunned enemies to trigger instantly or one by one, each having their own massive benefit. Lucy is kind of your only support option if you want to trigger everyone's core passive on the team, and it helps that Qingyi has her own form of crowd control. But after playing every other team with Nicole, it truly feels like she's lacking the extra bombs worth of damage. I'm sure that's not the case on paper, but just my style of playing the team. You could easily have different results, and I encourage you to play whatever team you want. Qingyi literally works with everyone. Oh, except Ellen. Qingyi and Ellen do not play nice together at all, due to both of them wanting as much field time as possible when it counts. If you've been asking yourself if it's worth picking up Qingyi or not, I'd say go for it if you only have a single stunner on your account and don't want to try the upcoming Anomaly team. Qingyi is by far the most valuable stunner for any free-to-play account due to her incredible versatility, but this comes at a cost of high field time, more than average game knowledge, and recognizing when to smash out those subjugation stacks. There's no doubt in my mind she will remain one of the best stunners in the game until the foreseeable future. If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe for more content. The next guy we're working on is Jane Doe, and ooh boy, let's just say she's something else. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.